So in today's class, we'll be discussing the concept of anatta, um, or what the translation that I take is impersonality. So we'll look at that today. Um, so just before I get started, I just want to make sure we recap the other parts because this is very tightly connected to the other building blocks of Buddha's teaching. So the first one we talked about was stress and the fact that stress is everywhere, right? There is stress when you don't get what you like, when you have what you don't like. There is stress because there is just the whole process of aging and all of that. So there's fact that stress is just a marker of existence. I mean, literally, it's called a marker of existence because that is something that if you're alive and you're able to cognize things, then you will feel stress, right? So it's just part of a, a base common reality, right? And then later we talked about anicca, or the fact that that everything is in motion, wherever you are and whatever you are doing, all of that will change. Your environment is subject to change. The day becomes night, night becomes day, and the earth goes around the sun, and the sun is itself growing and going to die. And this the whole concept of the existence of everything is subject to certain conditions, and things come into existence when the necessary conditions happen, and they go away when the necessary conditions are taken up, right? So, and everything is subject to impermanence. So these are the two fundamental blocks that we talked about. And last week we talked about antecedental concurrence, or the fact that one leads, the domino effect, one leads to another. So we talked about perception, we talked about cognition, we talked about affection. We said, okay, once you perceive something, you try to understand it. And after you understand, you form an opinion. You form an opinion and create an emotion, an emotional reaction. And this emotional reaction that you create becomes you. So you create yourself through the emotional reactions that you create for everything around you, right? So we talked about that, and we said also talked about how you can try and change things and change yourself by changing your reaction to what's happening in the world, right? So today we'll go into the third look at the tripod, the third stand of Buddha's teachings, anatta. So let's get started. So this is also among the most fundamental teachings. When I talked about Dukkha and Anicca, I talked about the story where Buddha gives his first teaching, right after he um, realizes, he kind of picks his five monks who were with him for a long time, but he never taught them anything. Um, and they leave him, and then he realizes and he understands all of these. And then he feels that these are the first people I should teach. And then he goes looking for them and he teaches. This is called Dhamma Chakkapavattanas. This is the first teachings of the Buddha. And this sutta that I'm talking about is literally right after that. So it's called the second sutta. It's called, it need not be that. It's just along with the first teaching, but sometimes it's called the second because the first one is Dukkha and Anicca, and this is the second teaching, right? So it's in that same context that the first day that he talks to his disciples, he talks about this. Um, So I have a sutta here and I'll read that. What's important to understand is this is not the entire sutta. The entire sutta is very, very long. And I've taken a snippet of it, which I think kind of brings um, the um, the background thinking of the Buddha in this sutta. So we are not going to study the sutta, it's too long. We just need to get the import and try to see how we can apply it in our daily life. Right? So I kind of read this and then we'll go to the translation. Rupa nicham va anicham yam pananicham dukkham va tam sukham vati yam pananicham dukkham viparinama dhammam kallam nutam samanupasitam etam mama eso hamasmi eso me attati. Right? So I'll just go to the translation. It'll be a little easier because that's in English. Right? So actually, I should also give you another disclaimer. I have even cut out certain parts of this sentence itself, that of the sutta, because this is a question and answer uh, kind of teaching. So actually, we can do that here, right? A little bit. If any of you, it'd be great if one of you can kind of talk through. I mean, also help me talk through this, right? Is the first one sentence rupa nicham va anicham is form. So rupa is form, right? Rupa is whatever you see. The form, your body is a form. Everything that you see is a form. You perceive things in forms and names, right? Nama rupa. So rupa is a form. Is rupa permanent or impermanent? Right. So it'd be great if one of you can unmute if you're really close and try to answer that. So it'll be fun. We can kind of redo, what happened with the original sutta a little bit. So what do you feel? Anybody? I mean, when you look at something, when you look at yourself, when you look at your body, when you look at the people around you, what do you feel? Do you feel that's permanent? Do you feel
Not
that's
permanent. I feel it's not permanent.
you feel it's so things keep changing, right? So even I maybe I look a little different from last week, from yesterday, right? So there is that there's changing happening, right?
Yeah.
um, yam pananicham, what is impermanent easy or stressful? Do you feel the fact of impermanence of the form? Is it something that is you like it because things are impermanent, or do you feel it's stressful because things are impermanent?
I think it depends on the situation. Something are easy and something are stressful.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. So things that are easy are the ones that you like.
Yeah. The like
Things that are not easy are the ones that you don't like.
that
Right?
you are right. Yeah.
I have an analogy. So it's a very interesting thought, permanent or impermanent, and whether it is stressful if it is impermanent. If I don't consider myself, or which we know we all are changing, but if you take sun as an example, we think it is permanent, even though it is changing. But if it doesn't come out the next day, we get stressed. There's no sun today. It's very depressing, right? So the form of whether it is permanent or impermanent, I think it's all perception. The sun is there. We know that it is there. It is just clouded, and we get stressed because he's not there today, and we feel that he's permanent. He should always be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're in Texas, maybe you would feel a little bit better if, or Rajasthan. Yeah, maybe true. So depending on the context, uh, you do feel, like you said, it's perception. How you're, though you know certain things, the fact of the change can cause stress, right?
Y-
Um, any other thoughts to that? this basically the teaching, what the class that I have is just a few slides. This is not a long class, and that's why I want this to be a little bit more interactive, because the concept is extremely deep. And if we just get the basic thread of it, you can start exploring it on your own. That's the goal of the class. So, uh,
Is,
any other thoughts you
Sir,
have?
sir, when we want something good and that is happening around us, we don't want that to be changed. When things are changing during that situation, oh, this is impermanence, we don't like that. When
Absolutely.
things
So,
are getting worse, uh, we want it to be changed, sir. Like then we feel the law of impermanence. Oh, we want
yeah,
that.
when your car is new, it's all great, right? When your vehicle becomes old, this impermanence is not good,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely. When you like something, when you feel close to something, then that impermanence causes stress. Of course, if you also change your thinking to say, if you don't like something, it's going to change. Maybe that can be helpful also, right?
so is it something all related to attachment, that the permanent and impermanent is that is what the major thought behind this
No, we'll
is?
get to that. We'll
Yeah.
get to that. Slowly get to that as we start answering some of these. Right?
Okay.
So, on the third one is, what is a stressful consequence worth being identified as mine, me, or myself? Though you know that whatever you have, right, or whatever you have around you is going to change, um, and change can cause stress and uh, you know, grief and depression, and all kinds of things, exhaustion. Is it still worth calling that you?
If it is stressful, it we should not call it's me, or that belongs to me. If the if that's stressful causing, then it's not worth to say that it's me or myself.
It becomes wiser when you look at stress to be able to have the freedom
Yeah.
to say that, hey, this is not me, there is stress, but this is not really me, right? To be able to sometimes, especially, people who are experiencing maybe depression and exhaustion, and extreme stress, um, that experience itself is sometimes a resultant of the fact that you believe that everything that you're thinking is actually you. So you're not able to differentiate the fact that uh, you are not just a resultant of what you're feeling today, right?
Yeah.
Your, your feeling takes over your entire definition of yourself. Right? That's what depression is, because when you're unable to feel outside your current feeling, right? So this is literally. I mean, I've tried to summarize and take that whole the thread and present it here, um, and so this is kind of the basis of the teaching, right? And he goes on to explain that your perception, is it permanent or impermanent, and then the same you know process. Um, is sensation permanent? It's not. You have a sensation, it changes. Is a feeling permanent? No, it is not. Are constructs like beliefs, are they permanent? No, they're not. They're all a resultant of what you understand at a certain time. The understanding may change. The object itself may change. You might be in a different place. So many things may change. And so, not any of these are permanent, right? There's always change, right? So in summary, what we are trying to say here is, what is impermanent is unstable. What is unstable can be stressful because it's unpleasant, because there is change that's happening. There's is unpleasant. And if it is unpleasant, it's not a good thing to say this is mine because it's unpleasant, because you want to kind of dissociate with it. What is unstable and unpleasant is not mine, because it's not under my power. Because if it was under your power, you would change it. The moment you see something that causes you stress, if that object and everything that related to that was under your power, you would go change it. But 90% of the time, what you will see is the things that are causing you stress or the things that are causing you some disturbance are really not completely under your power. Your own body is not under your power, right? I'm sure there are 10 more students who saw my message yesterday and said, I will wake up at 6 o'clock tomorrow. And their body was not under their power at 5:45 today, right? And then, so it happens all the time. Even our own body and our own mind are not under our powers, because we get overpowered by somebody else saying something. Somebody said, hey, you look 10 years older than you are. Somebody says that, and all hell breaks loose, right? So, it's similarly, if somebody says you look 20 years younger, you completely get lost that day. You're like, oh, this is the greatest day I've lived. And it's just because somebody said something. You can have fun with that, because you can just tell someone something like that and have, people just go off on their own tangent, but don't do that. Okay, I'm not teaching that. What I'm trying to say is we get engulfed in an opinion that we like or in an opinion that we dislike, right? So we don't have power over things. What is stressful, what are our own bodies. So what we don't have power over is that us. And that is the fundamental question that Buddha talks about. He says, if I want to call something mine, I need to have power over it. I need to have the power to change it. I need to have the power to adjust it. I need to have the power to dictate what happens with it. But there is nothing in the world that I can do, that I can change at will, that I can influence at will, that I can make it exactly like how I want. There's nothing in the world that can be like that. Whatever you do, something will break loose, right? So that's the important part. And because of that, is it even wise to think that you exist? That is the question, right? No, I'm not going to try to answer that, and I'm not looking for an answer from you on this one. But this is the question that we need to start marinating within ourselves. I'll share a few examples of where I feel I have been able to use this concept, and we can kind of discuss and interact about that, right? Right. So a lot of the times, we get trapped in our old selves. We have a definition of us. Um, this concept of anatta, the fact that you are a changing reality, and that you're not a fixed self, helps you overcome that, right? I mean, I have seen a lot of people. This is something that everything that I put here are things that I kind of enjoy discussing with people about. So I'm a foodie. Right? I have I've had this on the phone several times when people call me about talking about yoga and stuff like that, and they say, "Sir, I'm a foodie, so I'm 100 kgs now. How do I reduce with yoga?" So the typical answer I give, is that first yoga cannot help. You need to kind of change your habits, and then maybe when you come to a point where you can start physical exercises, you can come into class. And so, typically I would think that a foodie is someone who understands food and who understands what its consequences on the body are. But, people mistake themselves from a dustbin to a foodie, and then call themselves a foodie, right? You just eat whatever and then say I'm a foodie. Things like that. But people get engrossed in that. They say, oh no, I need to eat because I'm a foodie. I should eat everything. Um, but you could also change that to say, oh, I'm a foodie, so I need to be very conscious of what I eat. Right? So there are different ways to look at something. I'm not trying to bracket anyone, but I'm trying to say it's important to try and shift the way we understand what we identify ourselves as. Right? I have seen a lot of people say, I'm not a morning person. I'm not a night person. I'm not an afternoon. I don't know. There's all kinds of things where people get these ideas from. When I was growing up, I would get up early in the morning, and my parents never asked me whether I was a morning person. I had to wake up. That's it, right? So sometimes not having choices also helps, right? Whether you're a morning person, I'm an afternoon person, all of those things, right? You just wake up and do what you need to do, and that's all it is. You don't have to label some of those things, because extreme labeling causes us to bracket ourselves in very small boxes, which curtail the degrees of freedom that we have. Right? I hate someone. I have seen people say that I hate my parents because they made me go through this and stuff like that. So, or anyone. Sometimes it's siblings, sometimes it's parents, sometimes it's whoever, right? Um, Also, some people think, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be this. And, not giving attention to what's happening around you, not being mindful of the people that you're impacting, and just going after something because you think your identity is this, right? So that's one of the other things, right? So these are all, whatever I have listed here, these are all our definitions where we define ourselves and identify ourselves as this is me. I am this worry, I am this desire, I am this hatred, and I am this person. Um, these definitions, it's important for us to understand that while you feel those things, even those feelings are subject to change, because that is what gives you the freedom, right, to be able to think beyond our definitions of our own selves. Okay, so any thoughts, questions on the, okay, so this is kind of all I had. I have just one more important thing that the Buddha talked about on Anatta. He says Sabbe Dhamma Anatta. So this is very easy. You don't even need a translation, right? It is in the nature of everything to be impersonal. So it is natural. So if you really look at it, I'll try to give you one perspective. I hope I can translate that what I'm thinking into something that you also can kind of relate to. If you really look at the world over time, over the last 5,000 or 10,000 years, people are born, you literally look at it as in like a time lapse. If you do a 5,000-year time lapse, people are born, people are doing something, some people are fighting, some people are doing something, and then they die, and then somebody else comes up and they are fighting, and some city is built, and then that city is drowned in the water, and there's some other city being built, some building being built, and that building comes down, and there's people die, and all these things. If you look at that, the different animals, and the world shape itself is changing. India was, I guess, there's this whole concept of the earth and all the tectonic shifts. India was part of Africa, became India. So if you really look at maybe a 500,000-year time lapse or a 5 million-year time lapse, you just see so many things that are happening, and all of it, quickly, and almost with a disregard, literally with a disregard for your feeling. Please understand that. With a disregard for an individual, right? If you look at a swarm of ants, and you may step on one, one ant may die, the others are just continuing to move on. Um, and then, something falls on an ant or something and it dies. Something falls on a swarm of things. And in a beehive, you see some one or two bees die dead, and then the others are continuing their activity. There's that. It's similar with humans. If you just look at it from above, there's, some people are dying, some people are taking birth, some action is happening, and things are happening. This is all just happening because there are conditions that allow that to happen. Please understand, the world itself is not designed for you as an individual. The world is designed because it is designed because we have this. There are things that are happening because there are conditions that are there. The conditions allow the things to happen. As the conditions perish, things don't happen. Right? So sometimes we hold on to something, we hold on to a particular area. We say, okay, this is my place, this is me. And not just us. If you look at your parents, if you look at your grandparents, if you look at they all held on to something. But today they are not there. Several of them are not there. Like my great great grandparents are not there. So many, and you will also be great great grandparents to someone or somebody, and they will be like, "Oh, you're gone." Right? In 2020, you're here, but maybe 2080 or 50 or 60, it depends. Right? You're not there. So we are all taking birth and doing certain activities and just going away. Right? We take birth, do certain things, and go away. And this is just a cycle. It keeps happening. So when when you look at the world from a really, you really go, like you look at the sun from here and you feel it's permanent. But if you go closer, like a lot of the probes have gone, they see so much activity on the sun. Sun is like, it's crazy, burning, all kinds of things are happening on the surface of the sun. There's so much activity. But here you look, when you look in the morning as the sun comes up, it's like it's a very calm light coming up. It's not true, right? I think Hanuman tried to find out, and he found out. Right? Tried to go close, and then then he had his face all swollen up, trying to go to the sun, something like that. So if you were in another planet and looking at the Earth, it would feel all calm. But if you come here, it's all crazy. All kinds of things are happening. People are fighting each other. People are killing. People are dying. All kinds of things are happening. But if you looked at it from there, you would feel it's all like it's just things that are happening, not because there is a single person or a single entity. It's just because of the nature of things. It is just the nature of things. When you're at a certain, with certain conditions, you do certain things. Right? I'm born in a certain place, in a certain environment. So there are certain beliefs that I have, there are certain values that I have. Another person born in a slightly different place will have beliefs that are suited to him. Another person born in a different country will have different beliefs suited to his place in his country. And that's literally what it is. There is no one belief that's better than the other. There is no one thought that's better than the other. Because all of these are not really yourself. They're just happening because there are conditions that are allowing it. Right? So it's very important to try and get that. I call it the 5,000-foot view or the 10,000-foot view of things, right? Sometimes we're too into things, we're unable to come back and see kind of that, this is just, it's going to happen. These things are going to happen, right? So that's very important for us to try and get that. It's impersonal. It's not because of me that some things are going against what I like. It's just the nature of things. Some things you will like, some things you will not like. That's just nature, right? So this is all I had. Just one more thing that I want to close this with is this is like what we taught the last week, the Paticca Samuppada and teaching of the Anatta are the biggest differentiators of the teachings of the Buddha from literally any other teaching, whether it's the teachings from the Vedanta, whether it's the teachings from any. And so it's important to try and understand this concept because they are not available for reference and a discussion from some of the other teachings, right? So some of like Dukkha and Anicca are, like I talked about, Buddhism has it, even Hinduism has a little bit of the Anitya and Dukkha also. So, but this Anatta is a little different because most of the religions do talk about Atma or the fact that there is a permanent self. And when Buddha taught, he gave examples and taught that there is really nothing that's permanent. Everything is changing. Just everything is changing. So try to adapt and understand that whatever, whether it's your feeling, your thought, your emotion, your body, your perception, all of those are subject to change, and not just subject to change. They are not what you are. Right? It's not for you. It's not a personal thought. It's just whatever you think becomes you. If you stop thinking that, you stop becoming that. That's what it is. So try to get that. You can be impersonal about a lot of the things because whatever you believe is just what you have gathered. You can always overcome that. Right? So that's all I had for this teaching. Now I can take questions. Also, the other thing is there is a difference between the teaching of the Buddha and Buddhism, right? I want you all to understand this very clearly. I am far away from any religion, whether it's Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever, equally, right? So these teachings have personally helped me, and to the extent that they have helped me, those are the things that I'm sharing. Um, I have seen Buddhism in action in Buddhist temples and doesn't look any different from any of the religions that are Eastern religions like Hinduism or any of those. It's just the same thing. Like Jiddu Krishnamurti, if you've heard, a great thinker and philosopher, or Osho, some of these, like they have talked, they didn't understand the Buddha, and that's why there is Buddhism, right? That's literally what it is. One of the teachings that he talked about is that you shouldn't follow um, any ritual or anything blindly, and most of his followers did that. Eventually, ended up doing that. So it's I don't want to associate myself with any religion or this class to be the teaching of any religion at all. These are things, I think, concepts that are easy to grasp, or easy to use in your life. So you pick this. If you like it, if you're able to apply it, apply it. If you don't like it, just junk it. It's not a problem, right? If you will not hear me any day arguing that the teaching of this is better than the teaching of another. I couldn't care to be held to a certain point of view. So only whatever is helping and whatever creates progress, whatever creates more peace in your mind, whatever creates the right attitudes, and that's what's most important, right? So I couldn't care if this came from the Buddha or someone else. It doesn't matter. So I just want to let you know that this is not a, sometimes we get stuck with, because there is a lot of preconceived notions about certain religions. I don't want to get into that. It's a difficult topic and mostly non-productive. So these are things to help you, lighten you, maybe make you more productive, and, hopefully give you a little bit more different perspectives to what you're doing. Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Just that was my Anatta meditation. So I was like, oh my God, I need to distance myself from this. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.